guys, gonna start off the day going to the gym. I got my water. Let's go get a quick workout.
Ooh, it is a cold morning. Okay guys, today I'm going to show you a little tutorial on how you don't need an expensive product like Photoshop to edit your thumbnails. There's a lot of free Photoshop replacements out there, and I'm going to show you one that I like. You can access it anywhere you go, and I've actually used it for some of my thumbnails. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about me and my background and what I actually do. I am a software designer, a user experience visual designer to be exact, and I like to help friends and families with their YouTube videos. I like editing videos, I like getting that perfect thumbnail. But for 2019, I've decided to focus on myself and my own YouTube channel because I like doing it, it's something that I like to do, and I like sharing my experiences. I'm a creator and I like to teach people things that I learn. It feels good to work out. As I was saying, I like to get that perfect thumbnail. And when people contact me, they're like, hey, can you edit this picture? I don't have Photoshop. So I, of course, I'll help them out and I'll edit the picture in Photoshop. But you don't need Photoshop in order to edit a picture. There's a lot of free photo editing software out there that you could use whenever you like. And I found one that I really like. It's called Be Funky. Now, as you can see, as soon as you go to the URL, right away, this is the application to use. You don't have to put in your email, you don't have to log in, you don't have to create an account. You can just start using it. So the interface starts off like this. It gives you instructions on what to do. You simply click on open. You can access pictures from any of these folders. I'm just gonna access one from my computer. And I have a folder here called Pictures, Post Images, and I've selected one specifically for this tutorial. Okay, so this is a picture that I took while I was in Europe, and as you can see, it's really dark, but let's see what we could do with it. Okay, so you have some options here to crop it, resize it, rotate it. You have a bunch of things you could do right away with your picture. What we're gonna do is, let's say we're gonna use this picture for a thumbnail for our YouTube. I'm gonna click on crop. And here, you could customize, you could do a custom size fit of whatever you want it to be. But since we want it for YouTube, since this is for video, we're gonna we're gonna use a video aspect ratio of 1920 by 1080, okay? And here we go. Click OK, and there we go, you have it resized. Now, if your edit gets wrong, you can simply go Command Z for undo, just like you would in Photoshop or any other photo editing software. And your shortcuts also work. I'm doing Command minus to resize the image to fit on the screen. If you do Command 0, you could fit it just exactly how Photoshop does it. Okay, so we're gonna come back. We're gonna add 1920 by 1080. We're gonna position this how we want it, and we're gonna hit OK. And what that does is crops the image just as you wanted it to. Now, these features that you see with the star here, if you click on those, this is where you have to upgrade, and this is of course when you have to pay a fee. But if you want to do a simple edit, you can simply use their basic tools, which are completely free. So for this picture, it's a little dark, so I'm going to start working with the exposure. And here I'm going to brighten it. I might want to increase the contrast, the highlights, shadows. It has your basic settings that you get when you use Photoshop. Then you have this option over here called paint, and this is where you could, it's like a mask. You paint an area which will just affect that area. If I go back, if I click OK, I could go back to exposure, and I could start, playing with that again. The other one that I like to use is this Beautify. Beautify kind of gives everything a sharpness. If you move the settings to the right, you can see it's making the image a little bit more clear. Next, I'll come over to the color, and I can start adjusting the colors however I want. I like to bring the saturation of my images down a little bit, so I'll do that. Not going all the way to black and white, but very close. You could play around with your temperatures. I typically like to give my images a little bit of a blue tint to them. It just gives it a more cinematic feel to them. And then once I'm happy, then I'll click done. Here we have sharpness. I can increase the sharpness. Click OK. And one of my favorite features that I like to add to all of my pictures, I like to add a vignette. I'm a big fan of vignette. I think it just adds the focal point a little bit more, but unfortunately, if we want to use it here, you have to use the upgrade. Now I can see from the sharpness, it's made the picture a little bit grainy, so I'm going to use this smooth tool, and I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. Click OK. Okay, and for me, this is all personal preference, but to me, this is looking okay now. So now you could do some touch-up work like blemish fix, blush. You can even whiten your teeth if you have a smile on your picture. And then you have preset effects, and I find that some of these are actually pretty cool. You don't have to do anything but just click on them, and it'll just adjust your picture accordingly. Now, as I said, if you upgrade, you do get some pretty cool features like lens flares. You have a library of lens flares that you could play around with. I personally like this one right here. I could play around with the strength of it, but as I mentioned, you would have to pay the fee in order to get these features. You have some other options right here where you can get more artsy. You can have frames. I personally don't like the frames, but it just shows you how many features this free product has. Now, the other feature that I really like, that I use a lot, is I always like to add text to my thumbnails, and fortunately it has a text tool and it's free. So let's click on it. Let's add some text, and I'll just type my trip to Europe. I have font selection, so I could choose any font that I want. It has a good library of fonts. I could increase the size. I could change the color. For this one, I'm going to keep black. I could play around with the spacing if I want it to be spaced out a little bit more. I can make it bold. Okay, once I'm done, I just click out. I can position my text where it is. If I want to resize it again, I can resize it just by dragging. And these are all features that Photoshop carry, and here you get them for free. Okay, the outline is looking a little too bright, so I'm going to dim it down a little bit. I don't really like that font, so I'm going to come back over here and change it to, I'm a minimalist kind of guy, so I'm going to, have something clean and simple. I think I'm going to like this Arial narrow. Anyway, my point here is that you have a lot of options. These are options that you get from an expensive product like Photoshop. Okay, once I'm done, I could just position my text. I'm going to change this back to white. Now once I'm done, I just come over here to save. I'm going to save it to my computer. You can save it as a JPEG or a PNG. You can name it here. The quality, I always like to use the highest quality as possible, because when you upload to YouTube always compresses the file, so you lose some of that quality. And then I hit save, and it saves it to your downloads. There it is right there. So I can open it, and I can see my final graphic. Now I did this super quick. You can go ahead and take your time and be a little bit more creative with your thumbnail. My point here is that you don't need an expensive product or a professional product like Photoshop in order to get good thumbnails. And I always recommend you using a custom thumbnail aside from the ones that YouTube generates. The ones that YouTube generate, they're grabbed randomly from the video that you did, and the quality is very low, and it might not be the image that best describes what your video is about. You always want to have a thumbnail that describes what your video is about. Alright guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to show you a quick tutorial on how you can edit good thumbnails without using Photoshop or some other professional editing tool. You could do it all free on the web. And these projects are so easy that when clients do contact me and say, hey, can you edit this thumbnail because I don't have Photoshop, I actually point them to this because it saves them money, it saves me time, and I've gained trust from a customer. So I hope you like this quick and dirty tutorial, and if you would like to see more tutorials like this, let me know and I'll be happy to whip another one up. Alright guys, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and I will see you next time. Peace.